Today on Locked On Rockies, solid starting pitching, good appearances out of the bullpen, and clutch hitting. The Rockies get back to the fundamentals and shut out the Phillies.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 21st day of April in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, you are in the right spot. That's what we do around here, is talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every single day. And thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. We are on all your favorite platforms. Come hang out with us and join us on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel as well and be part of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Today on the Locked On Rockies podcast, we are breaking down yesterday's game, and I want to talk Ryan Feltner a little bit, and I want to talk about the most exciting Rocky at the moment. Maybe it might not pan out throughout the year, but we're going to talk about who I think is the most exciting Rockies player on the roster right now at this point in the season. We'll get to that here all on the show today. Let's break down a win. Boy, does that feel good to say. Not only just a win, the Rockies in control of a road game. I mean, when you're looking for optimism, when you're looking for signs to be, enthused by and excited by, you look at a game like yesterday and you're encouraged by the fact that the Rockies are able to win a game in which they really had, they were in control of it, but weren't necessarily dominating. This is still a team that struck out 15 times last night. That with 11 of them coming from the starter there in Strom, the Rockies were able to benefit from an early big hit. But sometimes that's really all you need, and that's what the Rockies showed. Sometimes it isn't going to be flashy. It isn't going to be doing so much all at once. You just need to do the fundamentals and play things cleanly, and that's what the Rockies did yesterday. A clean game of baseball for the Rockies. No errors. 5 runs on 7 hits. That means you're driving in runners in scoring position when you have opportunities to score. That means you're taking care of business in the field, and that means your pitching staff and the entirety of your pitching staff from starter through closer played the complete fundamental game of baseball, something the Colorado Rockies have not been doing lately. The Phillies are a little bit of a mess, sure, but it's good to go into a team that definitely has offensive potential and shut them out, especially in their home stadium. That's a nice win for the Rockies. It's certainly not enough to make you feel abundantly overconfident in the team and wash away all of the bad stuff that we've seen and know that this team is still capable of, but it's a reminder that this team does have pieces that can be successful, does have interesting pieces that can contribute to this team, and has players that potentially might be showing a little bit more of what they're capable of. Hopefully this is the norm for Ryan Feltner. It's not going to be a shutout every time, but hopefully when the Rockies turn to the fifth arm in their rotation, and if Feltner can continue to do this, he's going to be able to keep his spot in the rotation as the Rockies have to figure out what they're going to do with some of the pieces. Out of the back three, Feltner is the one that is the most deserving to stay in the starting role, in my opinion. He's young. He still has time to learn. You want to turn to him, whereas we can kind of know what to expect with Jose Urena and Austin Gomber, and both of them might have more success in short inning stints instead of Ryan Feltner. My biggest concern and hiccups right now with Ryan Feltner, outside of the fact, when you look at the first 2 starts, a lot of runs given up there, 3 against Washington, 5 against Seattle, but bounces back here now in his first scoreless appearance of the year and increasing in strikeouts. He got 1 more strikeout than he did against Seattle, cut the hits down to the lowest hit total as well, from 5 and 6 hits against Seattle and Washington down to 3. The big blemish and the big issue and the big holdup, I think, still with Ryan Feltner is he's losing too many batters late in counts. Only 3 walks for Feltner, but still 3 too many when you look at the fact that you heard this on the broadcast last night of Feltner getting ahead early and then walking people. I do not think it's a good approach. I don't think nibbling too much when you have an 0-2 count and then walking people. I think you're being a little too picky with the pitch selection. If you can get ahead 0-2, and then, if you burn a couple pitches, you go off speed, you throw something out of the zone, you're trying to get chased, sure. But go back to challenging the batter, and go back to the thing that got you ahead in the count. Dominate the count. Don't give the batters the opportunity to get back in there, because that goes into big hits later on. The more pitches you allow batters to see, the more reads they're going to get on you, and the more likely that you're going to get lit up. I think that's one of the big problems and one of the big issues when you look at Feltner, especially this year. In 5 innings against Washington, 3 earned runs, 3 walks on 6 hits. I mean, that means the walks are going to burn you when you're in the game for only 3 innings. And then especially in Seattle there, 5 earned runs, and you have 3 walks in 3 2/3 innings pitched. That's an issue. But if you can do what you did tonight or last night and get yourself in and take advantage of the strikeout a little bit more, with 6 strikeouts for Ryan Feltner, he had 5 against there, that's going to help you. But Ryan Feltner can't continue to lose his way. He's got to be able to handle the 3rd time through the rotation if you really want to have full confidence in him and his starter. I want to see Ryan Feltner get through 6. Not 5. I want to see Ryan Feltner get through 6 of good ball. That's why when I look at a performance last night, I'm encouraged. I like that. And again, Ryan Feltner being a younger pitching option for the Rockies, I think they should continue to use him and continue to allow him to start baseball games. But the things we need to reevaluate, or the things we have to think about when we're considering Ryan Feltner, is the fact of him getting himself in trouble and not dominating and ending the count. I think the getting cute and getting around the zone is effective, but sometimes if you're dealing and you feel confident in your stuff, go after the batter. Don't allow yourself to get back down in counts, and don't allow yourself to get in a situation where you're giving teams extra opportunities, because like we said, in that Mariners game, it got out of hand. Because all the hits he gave up in those 3 innings, always had a walk associated with it. That's going to do more damage. And nowadays, walks are double dangerous, because if you walk a team that's willing to move on the bases, walks can turn to doubles real quick. And a guy can go from, it can be a 2-out, nobody on situation to a 2-out runner on second situation real fast, as we've seen happen to the Rockies. So, yes, there is. I'm encouraged by Ryan Feltner. I'm not going to get overtly excited and think that we can expect last night to be the norm of Feltner yet, but I hope that's the norm. I mean, shutouts aren't always going to happen, but if he can cut down on the walks a little bit and keep the hits down while striking out a lot, that's a recipe for success for any pitcher. And it's great to see that Feltner was able to do that. I'm encouraged by, the Feltner's first start was meh, and then the Seattle one, big misstep. This is a big improvement for him. And then the Rockies were able to turn to the bullpen last night with, I think, the most exciting Rocky on the roster right now. Let's talk about that. Let's dive into the live chat here as well. If you have your Rockies comments and questions, why don't you drop them in the Locked On Rockies live chat? Be part of the show. Subscribe to Locked On Rockies so you can know when we go live. We will do that here coming up in segment number 2. But before we do that, I want to tell you about our friends at Gametime. Gametime is your title sponsor of the episode today. And I know, folks, it's the weekend. Maybe you wanted to do something and you kind of let it slip on getting tickets. It happens. It definitely happens, folks. We've all been there. Gametime is going to help you out, because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. They also got last-minute deals on tickets and their best price guarantee, so you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you'll have. Like I said, flash deals and last-minute tickets, so you can see on getting the best deals for maybe the Rockies or maybe some playoff action in Denver there. You can even check out images of your seats so you you know where you're going to be when you pick up the tickets. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has tickets with deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. So snag tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Want to shout out all our everyday listeners out there. If you're an everyday listener, why don't you put your name in the comments, live chat, let us know where you're tuning in from here. And we are always free and streaming on your favorite streaming service and on the Locked On Rockies podcast on YouTube. Going to talk more about Rockies pitching. Going to talk about the bullpen, my most exciting Rocky of the moment. But before we do that, I want to dive into the live chat. Nicholas Delvo says, it's about time they do something yesterday. I agree. It was about time. It was due. It was nice to see a good, solid win for the Rockies there to break the streak. It wasn't a hard, scrappy fought thing. It wasn't down to the last pitch. The Rockies, other than striking out a ton, it was able to put together a nice, good, solid road win. I mean, that was a good win on the road yesterday, something that is a rarity for the Rockies. Linda Clark, a name that I don't usually recognize. Hi, Linda. Welcome into the show. Thank you so much for joining us here. And Emmanuel Montoya, another name, a couple of new, I think some new names, new chatters here in the chat today. Saw Arena in the bullpen last night. This seems like the move when Senza gets back. I think so too. But I also like Gomber out of the pen too. So I'm wondering if the Rockies are going to ever consider Lambert coming up as well once he's a little more rehabbed and not on as much of a pitch clock or count for that. Maybe if the Rockies go younger in the rotation and bring Arena and Gomber into the bullpen. But is there necessarily room for Arena and Gomber in the bullpen? There might not. I mean, I don't know. The Rockies got to take a look at what Peter Lambert's able to do in a starting role as well. And those two pitchers are certainly going to be impacted by that and certainly going to be impacted by the return of Antonio Senzatella, which is still projected to happen next month. Michael Disney in the live chat says, let's hope the Rocks can get hot for 2 weeks and turn the season around while there's still a chance. Follows that up with, hope the biggest curse of being a Rocks fan. It will be difficult for the Rockies to do so, but winning their first series of the year would be a great start. And the Rockies have a chance to put themselves in a good position to do that if they are able to take down the Phillies yet again, but full weekend series against the Phils. But going to be tough for the Rockies to get back on track, heading to the Guardians after this, the Diamondbacks and Brewers in town before the Rockies head on the road to the Mets and the Pirates before probably the biggest reprieve of a stretch for the Rockies, a home series against Philly and Cincinnati in mid-May. But the Rockies schedule does not have a lot of back-to-back opportunities really for the Rockies to play struggling teams. There are teams that have a great history against the Rockies and better rosters than the Rockies that they are matching up with, certainly here in the interim future. But the Rockies got to take care of business against Philly first, and to do so, it is going to be, you're right, Lux Ace, it is going to be hoping for a win tonight. It's certainly possible. They did it last night. Why can't they do it again? My most exciting Rocky, Justin Lawrence, is probably the most fun Rocky to watch right now. I really do think that. I mean, there are multiple players that can kind of do this. You could look to the hot, Chris Bryant swinging the bat well, and some others. But man, we've talked about this before. Justin Lawrence is a great option for the Rockies and someone that brings a lot of personality to a bullpen that desperately needed it, and someone who I hope is going to be contributing to the Rockies for a bit. This seems like a guy the Rockies, I don't know how much they might not hold on to, how it happens with players like these, but back-to-back scoreless appearances for Justin Lawrence against Seattle and Philly. Does do the walk yesterday, but goes a little bit longer, two innings and some change for Lawrence, getting the 4 strikeouts. Man, it is awesome when you get to see a pitcher get on Pitching Ninja multiple times. We've talked about it before, but why he's so exciting to watch is just the presence out of the bullpen and his ability to do things. He is a pitcher that you look at and you just wonder, how on earth are you able to even hit or come close to reading that pitch? I mean, the arm angle, the everything, and on top of what you see from the social media stuff and interviews and things of that nature, he seems just like a great teammate and a great guy to be around. And exactly what the bullpen needed. The bullpen full of kind of some veterans and a lot of things where, there was only the closer or something. The Rockies, if Daniel Bard is able to get back to his form and last year's form, that's a pretty darn good 8th and 9th inning 1-2 punch there for the Rockies to turn to. Two people that, and you can also in situations flip them. I think you can use Daniel Bard maybe more in the 7th or 8th and turn to Lawrence in something like the 9th. If you're, depending on matchups, depending on handedness of batters or tendencies of the team that you're playing, I think that might open the door up a little bit more, and that might be a good thing for Daniel Bard. I'm curious, with Daniel Bard's anxiety, is it better to take him out of the closer role and let him pitch where there's a little more time in the game and a little bit more for the time for the Rockies to potentially come back? Or is that part of what Bard definitely need to, is that part of what he needs as a ball player, or his expectation still is to be the closer? I don't necessarily want to sit here, and I don't think we should rule out it being a bad idea if Daniel Bard can give the Rockies 2 solid performances in the 7th and 8th, and Justin Lawrence can shut it down in the 9th. I don't think that sounds like a too out there answer, especially when some of the Rockies acquisitions and some of the options in the bullpen have been shaky at best. This gives you a little bit more depth. This gives you potential. I don't know how much how many 2-inning performances Bard really has done of late, and maybe that's not what you want to do. But I think if both of them are pitching at a solid level, that gives you an interesting little mix-up of what you can do with your relief and your setup and your closing, especially. Then giving you options more for your long relief and things of that nature, especially if you're going to have to move one of the starters into there as well. I'm not going to... The Rockies going, Marquez, Suter, Lawrence / Bard to the other one. I mean, on this roster, that's a recipe for strong pitching for the Rockies. It should be. It might not be great, it might not be elite, but that's the type of the game flow that you're kind of hoping for. And by what we've seen and the potential of these players and what we know that they're capable of, that's the kind of line of pitchers that should help the Rockies win ball games like they did last night. I mean, the Rockies won with timely hitting and solid pitching last night. I mean, that's it. What we saw last night was just a back to fundamental baseball for the Rockies. I don't think we can overemphasize that enough. A couple of innings with crooked numbers, an insurance run in the top of the 9th, and the ability to get out of jams. Of course, you want to see this Rockies team strike out less. They certainly need to be better at the dish in terms of striking out. But the Rockies did go back to what we know that they can do, and I think that's going to help the funk and help a little bit. Still lots of concerns, but it was good to see the Rockies get back into a groove and not so lost and dejected out on the field, and that comes from the pitching. That is a big part of that for the Rockies for the Rockies to be up by 2 runs in the first, instead of down 2 runs in the first, like has been the norm over that 8-game losing streak and parts of this season so far. That makes a world of difference. And Lux A says, Crone is goated. CJ Crone is really good at hitting home runs. CJ Crone also is really good at striking out. But, I mean, it is that, but Crone still showing what he is capable of, certainly with being the Rockies' best offensive threat in the game yesterday. Elias Diaz continues to swing a bat pretty well. But yeah, so I think the big headlines and the big things to take away from the game last night, Feltner shows us a nice solid start. Still hoping for a little bit more, but encouraged by that, especially when you're looking at start number 3 being an improvement and not a continue down the worrisome trend. It was the Feltner took a step forward last night instead of taking a step back, which he did in Seattle. So he took that adversity, got back into his start, goes out and helps the Rockies pitch a shutout on the road. I think the Rockies have a really exciting piece out of the bullpen and Justin Lawrence, and with the return of Daniel Bard, those two are going to make a nice little combo, hopefully, for the Rockies bullpen and give them a little bit more depth there, and especially a little bit more unhittable depth. I know Daniel Bard can get dinged up a little bit, and Lawrence, one was plunked in the sinks. I think the only 2 runs that Lawrence has given up this year was a 2-run shot, if I recall correctly. But the possibilities are there. Still, the hole to dig out is very deep, and the schedule does not allow for much relief for the Rockies coming up soon. But hey, a win tonight is a win closer, not only to 500, but getting the first series win of the year. Let's take a look at tonight's matchup and get ready for the weekend here as we look ahead for the Rockies. We'll also take a brief moment to talk about an important pitcher again for the Colorado Rockies. A lot of pitching talk today because even though the Rockies scored 5 runs, pitching still seemed to be the big topic of discussion. Let's get to that coming up here in segment number 3. But before we do that, got to tell you about Ultimate Baseball GM. Folks, if you aren't running your own team yet, then what are you doing? You're missing out on being the one to call the shots, making the right calls, hiring the coaches, drafting and scouting players. It's all on you. It's what you have wanted to do and how you have thought, man, I can fix this team. Well, Pro Baseball GM is going to allow you to do just that. The game allows you to manage every strategic aspect of a franchise, playing through seasons and leading your franchise and fans to glory as you build a historic dynasty. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Baseball GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go, where you want to, when you want. Locked On Rockies listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. Download the game. Just visit probaseballgm.com. Scan the code right here on the screen. You can see on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. And it's available on the App Store. That's probaseballgm.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. Thank you to the everyday listeners out there. Shout outs to you all. We got a great live chat today as well. Be part of it by subscribing to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Luxay says, I really hope Montero and Zeke can perform a little better during the season. I definitely think Tovar is better disciplined than Montero. Tovar looks more lost at the plate than Montero does, but I think that those two players still have plenty of upside, and I am not going to be too worried yet as in the early parts. I do want Montero to be playing and getting as much playing time as possible, and the Ryan McMahon move back to third is going to complicate that. Lux, I don't know what at bats you're watching for Ezequiel Tovar that I'm not, but that dude is striking out like a son of a gun. the currently batting 180, 242, 488 OPS, 3 strikeouts in his last game, 9 strikeouts in his last 7, 15 strikeouts in his last 15. He's striking out once a game. So, again, young guy, rookie. So it's a bummer, but he's in the bottom of the lineup. Tovar's offense wasn't the main focus right now. It is now in terms of improving, but I am just confident. I'm confident in him seeing more major league pitching and being a better second half hitter of the year than first. And it's a good question, Nicholas Delvo. What is going on with Tolia? Playing in the minors, man. I mean, the Rockies didn't want to block young players, but they are certainly blocking them with some of the veterans they have, and with Mike Moustakas playing as much as he is Moose hasn't been necessarily a bad option for the Rockies, and hasn't been terrible, but again, every time Mike Moustakas plays is an opportunity that Michael Toglia could have played. It's an opportunity that Montero might have been able to get in the game, and same with CJ Cron. So it's the longer you commit to those players and you stick with these veterans and on a losing team, you're just taking away from them. I mean, again, can Cron still swing it, and can Moose still swing it? Sure, in spurts maybe, but their presence is blocking your young guys, and it's blocking the guys that we really need to see. And it's not necessarily helping the Rockies win games early on. Let's take a quick look at tonight's game and see what the Rockies are facing as they get ready to take on the 8-12 Philadelphia Phillies. And that's a funny thing that from the Good Fight, Mike Moustakas is a Rocky. I think that is a lot of people are going to be saying the same thing there. They are, let's see, the starter is going to be, I believe, Austin Nola. Is that the starter? I believe it is tonight. For the Phillies, that means the Rockies, again, this is a Phillies team that you don't sleep on too much, because they are fully capable of a big offensive performance, and that's something. They don't have Bryce Harper at the moment, but it is certainly this is still a team that has plenty of people capable of swinging the bat well. I still think the Rockies made a mistake by not getting Kyle Schwarber, but anyway, Rockies are going to see Noah Davis take the bump again here. So back-to-back young guy starts. That's another thing to watch there for the Rockies. How much are the Rockies going to get from their young guys today? Noah Davis did look good in Seattle. Can he do it again against the Phillies? Aaron Nola this year, 1-2, 5.91 ERA, 1.45 WHIP in 21 innings. He's given up 25 hits, 19 strikeouts, in 6 walks, and only 2 home runs so far this year. So the Rockies are going to need to, they're going to have to take advantage of that. That's a high ERA, but not a lot of home runs, 19 strikeouts. So definitely has that strikeout potential, and not giving up a ton of walks there. Noah Davis gave up half of the amount of walks that Aaron Nola has given up this year in just the one start alone. So the Rockies are going to have to be selective and pitch and get those pitches, because this is a pitcher that is going to go after you, is going to be someone that's going to come and try to strike you out. And as we've seen, the Rockies are definitely capable of striking out. 15 strikeouts for the Rockies last night. If you're not, thanks to the big fly from CJ Cron putting you ahead early, that's the thing that kind of keeps you a little bit more in the game. The Rockies are going to have to score early and go out there and get after Nola a little bit early. Those numbers might be a little misleading, especially the ERA, because you look at those that strikeout to walk total there is very promising. That 19 strikeouts to only 6 walks. And again, only 2 big flies given up on the season. So Rockies going with their traditional lineup, I believe, here with Profar, Bryant, Blackmon, Cron, McMahon, Diaz. Is Castro in? This is from ESPN. I'm on ESPN right now. I don't know if this is actually. It might still be in there, but they have Castro playing second, Daza, Trejo at shortstop. So no Montero or Tovar in the lineup, at least according to ESPN. I haven't checked it out with everyone else. First pitch is pretty close though, so I bet you that is going to be basically what the lineup is today. So Rockies got to be avoiding the strikeouts, got to get on base, and they got to cash in tonight if they want to score, back-to-back wins, which is something the Rockies got to do. If you want to get out of the hole, you got to string wins together. So, folks, this has been the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Back in action next week, Monday through Friday, right here on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Subscribe, be part of the show. We are on the way to 500 YouTube subscribers. If we hit that number, we will do our first ever Locked On Rockies giveaway. So help us reach our goal. And thank you so much for being part of the show. Lux Ace, Nicholas Delvo, Michael Disney, Linda Clark, Emmanuel Montoya, and everyone else who tuned in live. Folks, you can find us free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Have a wonderful weekend that's hopefully full of Rockies wins. Folks, we'll see you on Monday. Catch you on the flippity flip.